Tesla, right? There's a new Tesla that came out since I've last gotten a car. The thing about Tesla is they're a bit of a kind of leading the way in technology and really driving the force for these electric vehicles. And as such, they usually come out with some of the best all-electric vehicles at any given time until everybody else catches up. And I'm assuming they'll go on to make even more cars. So let's start by saying that with electric cars, first thing that comes to mind is all electric cars, such as the Teslas, which are some of the only viable all electric cars out there. And that's mostly because of their range. Now, electric cars, even at tops, a lot of times get around like 60 miles on a full charge. And sometimes it might take longer than, I couldn't say that for sure, but sometimes it takes up to 12, 16, 24 hours to get a full charge, depending on what kind of charger that you have for it. A lot of these electric cars will plug into a regular charger like you might have on the side of your house or in your garage. But they also offer Type 2 and Type 3 chargers, which can charge at a faster speed, which gets your car full and ready to go faster. Now, as for me, when I was living in Missouri in St. Louis, for work purposes, having an all-electric car wouldn't be that bad. I could get to work, I could get around at work, I could get home from work on one charge, and that'd be fine. I could even go to a lot of the things to do around St. Louis and back on all-electric, no big deal. But say I wanted to go visit family, even though they didn't live but a couple counties over, that would be close to the end of the range, and I would have to, have not used the car up till that point, or charge it while I'm at their house, in order to get back. And you don't really want to be stuck in a situation like that where you can't drive because you have no fuel. I mean, normally you just look at the gas tank, but with an electric car, you can't just go to a fueling station and fill it up. At least in Missouri, where I was at, there really wasn't any places like that. So what I had discovered, which seemed to be a very nice option, was a lot of manufacturers are doing electric gas hybrid cars. And this will have a, I'm not 100% sure if the motor can work with both electricity and gas, because I believe there are two different types of motors. Or if they have two separate motors, one that is gas and one that is electric, and it switches between them. Either way, though, a lot of times in these cars you have an electric battery towards the trunk, and it will be the primary source for travel, and it will work just like a regular car that was all electric, so it had the same kind of 60 miles. And of course it depends, and it's gotten better even since when I was looking, but it depends. Up to like 60 miles, maybe even further on their battery. If it's getting low, or if it's is low or empty, it depends on how they have it set. It'll switch over to the gas engine and work just like regular. Then you charge it up at night. It gets more energy for its batteries. It starts running on the batteries again. Again, when I was working and I didn't go out too often, just driving everywhere for no reason or even for reasons, just kind of on weekdays, a lot of times I'd drive around for work and be at home, maybe go to the grocery store. Not a whole lot of running around. You could live off that battery for a whole week without ever using any gas. And that's pretty nice. And if you're not getting out on the weekends, you can go a full weeks without using any gas. Very, very nice. But of course, again, there's more to it than just that. Again, if you want a Type 2 charger, which most people I know that had an electric car got a Type 2 charger, then you need to pay to have it set up. Let me see really fast about an estimate on cost for setting one of those up. let's see here. So it looks like it could be for level 1 charger. The cost of the station will be $300 to $600 with parts and labor costs $1,000 to $1,700. Level 2 charger would cost a bit more with a $500 to $700. Yeah, so you set up a charging station. Granted, if you're going to be at your house for a long time, it's going to last for a long time, assumably, but could be $1,700 to $2,700 just to set up the charging station. So there's that cost, but also besides that cost, a lot of times if you're going to have electricity in your car, it bumps the price up. So if you're buying a car that's normally, if you're on the cheaper end, like $1,200-$1,500, you're now looking at $1,700 to $23,000. $17,000 to $23,000 instead. So you're adding like $5,000 to $10,000 onto the price of the car because it's got an electric engine. Now on the bright side, of course, you're not paying for gas that often. Gas fluctuates wildly, so maybe sometimes gas isn't that expensive, sometimes it's more expensive, but you don't really have to worry about that too much. You just fill up every once in a while. You can even scalp the prices when they're low and not worry about gas when it's high. And a lot more places nowadays, even in Missouri and St. Louis, we're getting little charging stations and better parking if you had an electric car. So, for example, I go out the streets of St. Charles in St. Charles, Missouri. You go into the parking garage, they have somewhat like 4 or 6 charging stations. You park there. It's really close to the entrance or the exit of the parking garage. You can charge up your car while you're inside enjoying the movies or whatever you're doing, and it's free, which is another thing to think about. Because when you're charging the car, electricity is not free, even though it is a lot less expensive than gasoline. But for some of these places, you're at the St. Louis Botanical Gardens. They also have several spots, nice upfront parking and charging stations to charge your car while you're inside looking at the Botanical Gardens. So there's a lot to weigh when you're thinking about all this. Back when I was looking at the cars too, which I guess now that I think about it was more like 4 or 5 years ago, because I remember Obama was still in the president, and we had incentives that I'm not sure exist anymore for buying hybrid cars or electric cars, which could knock the price down a little bit off what you're paying for the car. When I was looking, I think I was looking at Honda, and they had a couple of cars that were about 1.5 years model old, even though they were brand new, just hadn't been bought. And they were marked down a good deal too, to where they were definitely in my price range. I ended up not getting the electric car. I was asking for advice from a few different people, and of course the people I know that have electric cars go ahead and get it. The people I know that didn't have electric cars had more reservations with it. The one thing that really, I guess maybe two things that really caught my attention was these electric cars, at least at the time, hadn't been around for even 10 years, and that's even just the most basic electric cars. This technology is so new that it's growing so much every single year, and you don't have the full 10-year test run to really gauge, is this viable? Are these breaking down too fast? Are they becoming more expensive towards the end of their life to maintain? There's just a lot to consider like that. So I didn't really have that test run to go on. And technology-wise, I am an early adopter to several things. For example, I got an Oculus Rift almost as soon as they came out, paid a hefty price with the hand controllers and extra sensor and everything, upwards of about $900 for my Oculus Rift setup, and that's not including the graphics card I had to buy to use that. Do I have a picture, by the way? Let's see. I don't think I do have a picture. We'll put on some interesting pictures as we get into talking here. But anyways, until then you can see my logo on my face. But anyways, Where was I? Right. So yeah. So since I've gotten the Oculus Rift, it has dropped with everything from what I bought about $900, probably down to like $400. A lot cheaper. There's been better models, cheaper models that have come out since. Um, my Oculus Rift hasn't broken down or anything, but it's not as well built as the newer models of the Oculus. And that's just something that's going to happen when you have new technology like that. That's why sometimes if you're not an early adopter, if you're not going adopter, you're not going to go through the pain, not willing to go through the pains of owning something that is not 100% ready for consumers yet, then if you're going to wait on that, then you get a lot of benefits, such as the price dropping because technology is less expensive, the technology becoming better, the kind of learning the repercussions of what the ownership entails, learning off of everybody else that's already gotten one. The other, going along with that, the other concern I had was brought up, the electric engines and battery and all that is all different than what's in regular cars. And when you go to get a car fixed, you need the person that's there to be able to fix it. For a lot of cars, even cars from different countries, they're built similar enough into similar enough standards that you can roll it in and the repairman's going to know how to fix it. But with these electric cars, the electric engines and electric batteries, it's completely different. Are the repairmen going to be able to fix it? Do the car manufacturers have a place for you to go to get it fixed? How long is it under warranty? When you get that battery, how long is that battery going to last? If you think of something like a Game Boy, you can charge it up and it holds. All right, let's see your cell phone. When you first get your cell phone, when I first get my cell phone, I can use it nonstop for about a week and not have to charge it. And cell phone batteries have gotten good enough to nowadays I can use it pretty heftily throughout the day and not have to recharge it until I go to bed at night. But even not that long ago, it used to be that you had cell phones. If I wanted to watch videos or play games on them, they wouldn't last a day without having to have it charged. And it wouldn't take that long until it got to that point. So are these batteries in these cars lasting long enough that you get the full 60 miles range or whatever is expected throughout the life of the car? Yes, it's just questions, and when I don't have answers to those questions necessarily, it starts becoming, do I want to trust that this is going to work? Is this a good value, especially something that's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars? You want to have confidence in the decision you're making. You don't want to come back and be like, man, if I would have just done this, I could have really saved myself a lot of pain, saved myself a lot of money. That being said, I even at the time would have trusted it enough. It's just I'm not one that makes enough money to really be able to just make that big of an investment and just trust on it, because if it doesn't last, it could really set my financials back. I trust the car that I did got is going to last me good 20 years, I would imagine, before I need to get a different one. And I don't know if I can make that claim for the electric hybrids. But if I'm trusting the electric hybrids to last like they claim, work like they claim, there's a lot of benefits to it. Of course, again, not having to pay for gas, big benefit. Just getting into what the future is going to be like, I imagine that cars are going to roll towards this electricity. Electric engines, electricity being the source of their power. I know we had a couple other fuel sources that tried to start up, like ethanol, the E85, or ethanol's the big one I saw, and even as big as that was around Missouri, there was only a couple of fueling stations that actually had ethanol there, and they weren't really in the big cities either, like St. Louis. I would see them around Columbia, Missouri when I was going to college. Um, Electricity, though, you don't have to depend on it being somewhere because you could plug it in like regular. But even with that being said, I've been seeing the bigger electric charging stations popping up in more places that I ever saw than I ever saw E85 or ethanol. So it's already got a bit of a head start like that. And that's kind of what kept ethanol from cars from really taking off, is that the car manufacturers have to depend on the fuel sources being there, as the fuel sources have to be manufactured and have to be sold at the different places that the cars are at. Well, electricity is available in lots of different places, at everybody's house, most places of business, and most places that people are at. So that wall that manufacturers had to climb over to get off of gasoline is already in place and there, and that really, really helps out. So with that all being said, I had a few examples of different electric cars to look up. These are mostly electric hybrid cars. Let's see, we got... Did I not get this one in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I should have 6, I believe. Okay, so let me get this picture up here for you guys to see really quick. Yeah. Open image. Honda. This is there we go. Got no background, so you're still seeing my background, but I can turn that off. There we go. So this here is the Honda Clarity Electric 2019 model. It's said to have a combined fuel economy of 114 miles per gallon. I'm assuming that's if you use the electricity in one day, and then after that, how much further you're going to get on miles per gallon. Now, that's the nice thing about a lot of these cars, is they still have really good fuel efficiency, even if you're just running off of gas. And in most cases, you should be able to get by without using electricity at all. If for some reason you're in a situation where you're not able to charge it, it's still a decent car. It's just at that point you're not saving money by using electricity, and you're not, or you are still paying a good deal of money extra for the car because it has the electric capability. So let's see here. Okay, so it looks like one of the things about this car is that the plug-in electric type car is only available in Oregon and California, a couple of the more progressive, environmentally progressive states. I'm not sure why exactly that is. Maybe they just feel that they sell better there and they don't want to have to port them around everywhere if they're not going to sell. So it looks like this car gets about 47 miles before the gas engine kicks in. So in this case, this type of car, the gas engine will power the electric motor. So I guess how many miles it gets like if you didn't have any gas. I'm not sure exactly the range in that way, but of course it would want to start powering the battery before it gets too low so that it's not dangerous. So yeah, so say you're out driving. If you've never been in an electric car, they're very quiet because the engine is an electric engine. It doesn't need a starter. You just turn the key and it's on. So you're driving, you've gone 47 miles. That's when you might hear the gas engine kick in. What the gas engine do is just generating electricity basically. That electricity goes straight to the battery for the electric car. It's not powering its own gas engine to power the wheels of the car. And that way it keeps your electric battery not full, but at least with enough charge to keep you moving. And from what I've heard, it works pretty well that way. Let's see. So it only takes a couple hours to charge, it says. Can be driven up to 47 miles solely on electricity. For longer trips, the gas engine kicks on just like in a regular car for total range of 340 miles, I guess, on one tank of gas. And that's probably a bit longer than what my current car gets on a full tank of gas. Another, which is part of this review too on Kelley Blue Book, another downside is that it needs a place to store the battery for the electricity. A lot of times it takes up trunk space. So if you're transporting a lot of I guess clutter, not necessarily people, because people are going to be in the cabin, but if you're trying to transport golf clubs, if you're moving a house and you need a place to put a bunch of boxes, this is going to give you a little less space than a regular car is going to have because it's fit the battery in there. Another car I was looking at here is the Nissan Leaf. Let's flip over to that. There you go. Hey, my picture went away. There's my webcam. Okay, so my webcam needs to be way up here. There you go. Okay, so the Nissan Leaf. Debuted with a 2011 model year, so they've been improving and working with this car for several years, which is a good thing because, again, they find out each year what's going wrong and how can they fix it. So this has an estimated 150 miles of range. You can upgrade the Leaf. There's an upgraded version with an estimated range of 226 miles. I think this is full electric. Yeah, I don't think this has a gas engine, so this is one of those cars fully electric that if you can go on the base 150 miles, not have to worry about it because you're like living in a city. You have an alternate car for if you're going to go on long trips to visit people or whatever the case may be. This, especially if you upgrade to the 226, this could be a good car for you to commute in. I mean, at least when I was living in St. Louis, that would be very comfortable for me, even if I was going to visit family a few counties over. Very good if I was doing a long trip, like we did long trips every once in a while for vacation, like going from St. Louis to Kansas City, or we've driven to Chicago several times. We've driven to Orlando. That kind of trip, that's not what this car is for. You don't, there's no way you'd be able to do that. So, again, it depends on your situation. At an estimated price of $31,600 to $43,900. It's a lot less expensive than the Tesla, I believe. Let me see how much a Tesla costs. Tesla Model X. I think, is that the newest one? It must be. Model S. Model S is the newest one. So yeah, X and S, the both models, is about $79,000 or $80,000. A lot more expensive. How much range does Tesla X have? This 370 miles. Yeah, so that's not a whole lot more for having to pay like 3 times more. Granted, it's also very, very deluxe, like inside and everything, but uh, Nissan Leaf, especially if you get an upgrade, assuming that it's like 40,000 with the upgrade, uh, not not bad at all. I guess it's like half the price, but still 2/3 the range, even closer to 3/4 of the range of the Tesla, the newer Teslas. Also looking at the Ford Fusion Energy prices. Ford. There we go. Ford Fusion Energy. So this kind of car, as it says, is a Fusion, a hybrid. So this is a hybrid. It has just like the other one, a charge uses gas to charge the electric, I believe, but it definitely have gas in there because this only has a 26-mile range with just the electricity. So that's not going to get you super far, but again, if you're living in the city, if you're not going too far, like I was in St. Louis, it's probably going to get you around your workday commute, so that you can charge it up for the next day. But with having gas engine in there, that takes care of your other. Let's see here. So. Yeah, most of these cars get around 30 miles per gallon on their regular gas tanks, gas engines. So that's what you're going to be mostly depending on with this. A very nice looking car, though. So besides just looking at cars, we've had a couple of newer, interesting electric car news stories. Let's look at first here the Dyson car. If you don't recognize that dude, he is the Dyson dude. Dyson has well known originally for coming out with a vacuum. It looked like mostly that I don't know if it's this guy specifically or if he's just a leader or if he's just a spokesperson, but the Dyson company created a better vacuum with the way that it has suction, and I used to sell them at Costco back in the day. And improved on their own vacuum design by creating a ball vacuum that everybody wanted, which made it hard for me to sell the other models, but made little improvements like that. They also came out with the better hand dryer, the air blades, where you just stick your hands off in, and it's supposed to blow air from both sides, so it just wipes the water off your hand. To be honest, that never works quite as well as it should. But now apparently he was making trying to make an electric car. Apparently spent $629 million into trying to, I guess, research and develop this car, but they've completely abandoned it. Which this guy, well, I guess he planned on spending up to $3.1 billion trying to fund this car, but I guess at some point, if you get to a stopping point where it's just not going to happen, there's no point in dumping that money in when it's not going to do anything. But, I mean, the thing about Dyson, even if their products aren't amazing, is to have this ingenuity to try this and to be able to build on top of it. To add to their lineup of what they kind of products that they do. Um, so it would have been interesting. Hopefully, some good information came out of it that they can maybe they made patents that they can sell to recoup some of the money. Not that I care if they're recouping the money, but I care about any information that they got being further, I guess, produced so that it doesn't just go to waste. Because I believe in developing this, they probably came up with some good ideas. They just weren't able to follow through, unfortunately. Another story that I saw that interested me was. I also don't have this picture up here. Why don't I have this picture up here? Let's get it. Image. I don't have a picture for it at all. I don't know. Well, whatever. Whatever. We'll just give you a. Oh, there it is. No, that isn't it. We'll just let you see the Honda again. So in Germany, it has just been decided that Germany will require all gas stations to provide electric car charging also. Um, which, man, I couldn't see that happening in America, because how are you going to be like, hey, hey, Sinclair, I know that you don't have this budgeted or anything, but all of a sudden you're going to have to pay, I mean, assuming it's what we just looked up, upwards of $2,000 to have a electric car charging station. Um, it's especially with how much businesses really get a say in how politics is done. It's really hard to imagine that ever happening. So it looks like the Germany's also like U.S. was before. It might still be. I don't know. Doing a little bit of subsidy for purchases of electric vehicles. Now I'm wondering with these electric chargers, I'm assuming they can set a price for how much it costs to charge your electric car at these charging stations at gas stations. Yeah, because I mean, like at your own home, they can measure how much electricity you're using and they have a price for it. So they should be able to have these stations measure how much electricity that they're giving out and being able to charge it to a credit card or going inside and being able to measure it from there. If they could do something like that, they could really, 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 really make electric cars a reliable future in Germany, or if we did it in America. If you have that kind of support, that's what people really need to adopt these new ideas. Yeah, I can't see that again. I can't see that happening in America until there basically is no more petroleum left to make gas from. Uh, just realistically, there's no way the businesses would let that happen because they'd have to pay for it, and they might not see an immediate profit from it. Um, More realistically, I could see a gas station like BP or Quick Trip maybe deciding that they're going to put in 2, 3, 4 chargers, electric chargers at all their gas stations. I could see them popping up individually at different places, which we already have. And I think that's the best that America's going to do until, again, there is no more gasoline in the world. Or if there's just that many electric cars selling. I know for sure that if businesses think they can make good money off of it, that they definitely will try to make good money off of it. The problem right now is that they don't think that they can, and it's really easy to manipulate what is popular and what people think by putting out different ads, by having different discussions and working with different people to make that a reality. unfortunately, but that is how it is. So one of the concerns I had about owning an electric car is, again, when your battery runs out. I guess I didn't mention it as an option before, but can you get them switched out? Can you get a different battery? Or are you just stuck with the one that's not working that you have? Well, there we go. NIO, the company NIO, apparently has been swapping electric car batteries. They've done 500,000 swaps, and this is in Europe, but once people really get a good idea for how this works, the idea will spread, of course. Now, it looks like NIO is a Chinese electric vehicle manufacturer. But yeah, it looks like these batteries in these cars aren't necessarily made to be swapped out. That isn't to say that they can't be, but when you're putting a gigantic battery that we've seen in cell phones can explode and stuff like that, you don't want to do something that you're probably not supposed to. Well, these cars are being made to have their batteries swapped out, and it looks like it's going well for them in China. You might laugh at Chinese cars because, gosh, until a couple of years ago, there really haven't been Chinese cars in America, and you would think, that means they're cheap knockoffs. That's not necessarily the case. I'm sure at some point people thought that about Japanese cars, which are all over the place here. But America just has a big car manufacturer history, and it's hard to penetrate a market like that, especially with the preconceived notions that people have about Chinese products. But if you look in Asia, Europe, India, Africa, Russia, you see a lot of like Chinese cars like that. I believe I remember looking and seeing that China, especially for within China, are able to make these affordable cars for people that were on low salaries, and they're just, they're plain and everything, but they work, and they're just super, super, super inexpensive. Like, I think maybe $2,000 would get you that car. Which is honestly, if I could have paid $2,000 for a car instead of the $28,000 for the car I have, I might have gone with that. And that's not to say I don't like my car. I think it's a good value. It's going to last me a while. It's a little bit of deluxe, and I definitely do like it, but not having to devote that much money into a vehicle like that is just something very nice. Anyways, last story I wanted to bring up here is, let's get the picture. There you go. Remember that? That's the Elon Musk indestructible Tesla truck. And funny thing about that is, I never saw the actual announcement for the Tesla Cybertruck. I just saw him throwing something at the window and showing that it's like indestructible, but then the window cracked anyway. So I was like, what? What? I still never found out what, that was supposed to happen. I don't know. But anyways, it says 2021 is going to be the year for electric revolution. There's 10 new electric vehicles coming out next year, or at least planned to, including a Ford F-150 electric. Especially when you're getting into the realm of trucks and SUVs, I think that's going to hit a lot of new market, a lot of new eyes of people that are interested. May not be interested in electric cars now, but might be later. Now, as far as I know Elon Musk was kind of testing out the Tesla, showing how tough it was, because you really need, not just that they really do need to be tough to take on a lot of what people do inside these trucks with a flatbed, throwing stuff inside them and bouncing around on rocks and gravel and dirt roads and all that stuff. But even more people than that never see dirt roads, never put a lot of heavy stuff in the back of their cars. They just like the appeal and the image of having a tough, big truck. And to be honest, if you're going to sell a truck like that, you need to be able to fit that image for all those reasons. So I think Musk had a good idea with showing how tough it was. I'm not sure if it really worked out the way he thought it would. I'm not sure if even throwing stuff at the windows is really going to prove how tough it is. Just made it look more like a futuristic, made it look more like a futuristic cop car, where it could take debris being thrown at it and stuff and still survive. What I really want to see, is it bouncing around the land and not having the battery come loose or break down or anything like that. That's more of the kind of toughness that it would need to, I guess, realistically need to prove that it can be useful. And then a good design, like I'm looking at the Ford F-150 electric. Looks just like their F-150 line of cars are trucks, which is probably one of the more popular lines of trucks. I've even had one myself. Not necessarily because I really wanted it, but because I didn't have any other cars at the time that I could have. But yeah, being popular means that it has a good reputation, a good look to it. People are going to be interested in giving it a try, and it's that kind of slow shift over that people might be into electric cars before they even realize that they are into it. And I do believe that this is a good direction to go in. As soon as that we have cars and trucks and SUVs that can handle what people do in their daily lives. So that's about all I have for this tech talk. A little different than my normal computer deep dive into computers, but I thought this was an interesting thing to look at, a different interesting thing to talk about. And if, of course, you did find this interesting, feel free to follow me on YouTube or Twitch here. Feel free to look at my schedule on Twitter. Feel free to hit me up with comments on the videos or comments on Twitter about maybe topics that you would want to see covered, your responses to topics that I've already covered, what you enjoy watching, what I could do better. I appreciate any of the feedback, positive or negative, that I could get to help me become a better streamer. And I'm happy that you were able to watch this, so thank you for your time. And see you next time.